Okay, so I just want to take a minute to talk about popular and scholarly sources because these are terms that you will hear a lot, and I want to make sure that you understand the difference. And you'll notice that this doesn't say popular versus scholarly. I'm not suggesting that one is better than the other, they're just different. So when you think of popular sources, think about things like newspapers, Time Magazine, BuzzFeed, different websites that you might use. They're usually written by professional journalists. The primary audience is the general public. So any of us could go into the grocery store, pick up a copy of the newspaper, and probably understand most of what they're talking about. The language is pretty accessible. The authors might cite their sources in passings, but they're not going to use formal references. So when I say this, I mean like a reference in passing might be in a 2012 speech, Barack Obama said blah, blah, blah. That's an example of citing my source in passing. I'm technically telling you where I got the information, but it's not written out as a formal reference. This chart says there are always ads. I'm going to say almost always. And then they cover current events, and they're able to do that because their editorial process is pretty short, which makes sense because most newspapers publish at least once a day. Websites are publishing every couple hours. They don't have time to do this extensive review. So that's popular sources. Scholarly sources, which you will often hear throughout your academic career, an assignment will say you have to use scholarly sources for this, or X number of scholarly peer-reviewed articles. Here's what that means. So these are written by researchers or scholars in a particular field, and they're written for other researchers and scholars in that field. So the language is much more technical. They're expecting that you know something about the topic going into it. There will always be some sort of references list or footnotes or endnotes, something like that. It should be very clear where they got their information. There are rarely ads, and they do not cover current events because the peer review process that a lot of these articles go through takes quite a long time. And on the next slide, you're going to watch a short video about the peer review process that will kind of explain that a little bit more for you. So just so you understand the difference, popular and scholarly.